was $5,000 over what our budget was. And we managed to scrape up that money. We're talking about our budget was $35,000. And can you believe that in today's day and age? The outside was white and the inside was white, except for the kitchen. The kitchen was yellow with green Formica counters and red vinyl floors. But otherwise, the whole house was white. And you know, white is a great color. Well, actually, it's interesting. It's in pigment, white is no color. It's no color. In light, it's all colors. That's interesting. So, so I'm just biding my time because Christine's going to be walking in the door, I know, in just a minute. So anyway, just all white. And white, I bet a lot of you have white as your interior color. And that's good. It goes with a lot of things, but it's actually no color. As a member of the committee for putting on programs, I thought color would be interesting. I wonder if there is a colorist in town. We had a colorist talk about 30 years ago. Does anybody remember that program? You were not in the club then, probably. So I did an internet search and up came Christina Harris, who has a company called Colorific. And I called her up and I said, can you talk about color? And she does architectural color. And she's a consultant, does that sort of thing. She was a graphic designer before that, but moved to Santa Barbara and just decided to go in a new direction. And color consultation became it. So please help me welcome Christina for our talk.
First, just thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Of course, when Gary called and said, can you talk about color? Just ask my husband. Yes, endlessly. I can talk about color. Thank you. I'm going to cheat and kind of look at my...
You could pull the mic
Carry
out.
it with you.
All right, why don't I do that? Feel so Hollywood right now. You can go ahead and go to the first slide. So I'm going to start today actually talking about what is color. So as probably all of you learned in school, many different things about color, which we've all just forgotten because you get on with your life and it's not something that you think about on sort of a scientific level. So let's just start with the basics. So you guys might remember from science class or history class, Isaac Newton. I actually do have a prism, which is how I took this picture, but it's not sunny enough today to get our rainbow. So he did a series of experiments with sunlight and prisms, very simple, but he was actually the first to say, hey, guess what, guys? Color is not in the thing. Like sunbeam is all colors, which blew everyone's mind, as you can imagine. And that's why we see the colors of the rainbow. And if you remember from school, Roy G. Biv, which is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Those are the colors of the rainbow. So his demonstration was the first one really to say light, which is refraction, light bending, proved that color is not in objects. Color is light. So what is color? Colors we see are actually reflected light. Based on Newton's demonstrations, we know that color is not in objects. So when we perceive color, what's happening? When we see green grass or red apple, we're seeing reflected light, light reflecting off the surface into the cones of our eyes that see color, and our brain interprets that. And so, in other words, the petal of a pink flower absorbs all the rays of sun, all those colors, and reflects back pink. So then we perceive pink. It's just fun. Like now you're going to look at everything and go, this is not a green apple, you guys. This is what it really is. So what is color? And you guys might remember from science class, all the what's the word I'm looking for? Light waves go all the way from radio waves to gamma waves. But you can see right there in the middle, there's this little rainbow looking thing. That's all we see. There are other creatures that see into these ranges, but we only see this. And so if you expand that out, that's the rainbow right there. So we only see 1/60th of all known light waves, but we can see or differentiate up to 1 million colors. Some people say more. And it depends on the person. There are people who are colorblind and they have other issues, but generally humans see 1 million or so colors. We can differentiate between the difference between green, yellow, and yellow-green. Okay, next. So why colors? This is a little bit esoteric, but this is what most scientists believe. Because we live in a world with a sun, and because our brain is mostly functioning on what we see. We have all those other senses, right? We have 5 senses, but mostly we function in the world by what we see. So because we have sun, and because sun is light, we and most animals have evolved to see color. And so this is a great quote from The Secret Language of Color. Our world is color-coded so that all living creatures know what or whom to attract, what to eat, when to be afraid, and how to behave. In other words, color colors nearly everything we do. Next. I'm going to talk a little bit in history. So ancient civilizations, from our earliest ability to adorn ourselves and our environments to today, humans have ascribed certain powers to color. And while the exact meanings may be lost to us, it is clear this is a photograph of one of the cave paintings. It's from 25,000 years ago, which is hard to imagine. And they really only had black and red. And it's still, these cave paintings are alive, motion, depth, and they're still able to move us. It's like you feel like you're there. I love this little girl's outfit. It's very elaborate. She's a kind of people that is in Upper Siberia. Folklores and tradition. Both history books and fairy tales speak to peoples from around the world that have used color to exert a special kind of magical power. Then and now we use colors to show our membership in a group. You guys have colors. Telegraph our belief system to our friends, neighbors, strangers. Show our loyalty to a place. Celebrate a holiday, a season, a celestial event. All these things are really, like you see it every day, but you don't think about it. But it's like, you know exactly what baseball team people like. You know exactly what college they went to. It's all color-coded. It's like an instant way of telling a lot of different things in our lives just through color. So some of us wear specific color uniforms to let others know that we sing in a choir. It's like an instant, like you see a choir robe, it's like, oh, you're in a choir. You're on a sports team. You have a specific job. Think of a white coat for a doctor. So we use color as a shortcut. It adds meaning and layers of meaning to millions of small and big events in our lives. Today. So this little thing in the bottom here, you can see that separated out all these different colors, little squares. This is a representation of an actual physical thing that is used by anyone who makes everything from soup can labels to Nike shoes to Patagonia vests. Because when you're specifying color and sending it out, you have to know that when you get it back, it's exactly the color you ordered. So this is an amazing thing that shows hue, value, and chroma. So that's kind of how people who specify color think of color. Hue is the actual color, like in a color wheel. Value is how light or dark. You can see there's a white little peg at the top and a black one at the bottom. And then chroma, the purity of the color. So in here, it's kind of gray. Out here, it feels very pure. So that's how professionals, not necessarily in paint specification, but in all other kinds of things, it's how they specify color. In fact, my husband's a wildlife biologist, and they can tell by taking sample cores if people have done something that they said they didn't do, like move soil into an area where they shouldn't, because they can look at this munsel and they know it's the wrong color. So they have all these little plastic pieces of brown, basically, but those colors are an exact match for what, like this is a riverbed color, but this is like a sandy soil color. So millions of people around the world use this. And this on here on the side is the very first color wheel that was ever developed by Goethe in Germany in 1809. So quite a while quite a while ago, and exploration continues today with discoveries by scientists, sociologists, psychologists, neurologists, and artists, of course. So this is kind of where, this is sort of my wheelhouse. How does color affect us? So colors have the amazing power to influence us both physically and emotionally, transmitting meanings to us through intuitive reactions, like red means danger, or through social customs, like brides wear white. Of course, in other countries, what brides wear may not be white. So it's fascinating, it's different depending on where you live. But color has the power to move and heal us. So colors that surround us can have a huge impact on our mood. Research shows that colors can heal, relax, energize, nurture, and enhance our relative happiness and contentment. So it's easy to see how color can be a powerful tool for creating an environment that's perfect for who's ever there or that kind of space. It's a simple tool that completely changes an environment. So now we're going to get a little more specific into architectural, how we use color in architectural spaces. So an obvious one is colors for health and safety. So color coding on floors of factories is so vital to worker safety that OSHA has preset standards, and they even have different standards depending on the industry. So it's super well researched. You want a safe environment, you're gonna work with color to make sure that that's a really safe environment. And of course, color for healthcare settings. Thought this was a really beautiful photograph because it just looks so bright and cheerful, but there's decades of research now on what kind of colors to have in healthcare settings. And so this is actually a house that I did up in the Riviera area. You guys can recognize the colors of Santa Barbara. So it's got a nice, pretty, it looks a little green here, but it's got a nice creamy white with a Santa Barbara blue, which is like a blue-green, and the natural wood tones. So colors we like or expect. Those are sort of different things, but similar. So from the time you're born to today, your tastes may change, but there's never been a day that you didn't know if you liked a specific color or not. It's rare that you're like, I'm not sure. Go ahead. New or unexpected colors, but the colors we like on any given day can be, I have this in quotes, manipulated. We don't like to think that we can be manipulated, but we can. But you can be manipulated by, you go into a friend's house and you're like, oh my God, I love that couch. Like, what color is that? Or travels, that's a big one. You go someplace and it's very different than here, but you're like, I think I want to incorporate something from this into my home. Your community, your friends, your family, even people you don't know but trust, like a fashion designer or an interior designer. So this is an actual room. It's basically all shades of the same color. Not for everyone, but how to choose the right colors. So first I'll just say there's no such thing as the right colors. And for every person has their way of looking at the world and the colors that they like, but there's really not anyone on the planet that doesn't like certain colors and that has meaning for them. It's how they pick out their wardrobe or their bed sheets or their rugs. It's art. It's all there. It's like sometimes you don't really think, it doesn't come to the top like, oh, that's why I'm choosing that. So architectural trends found in magazines or on TV is what most folks feel is a safe bet, but it can be daunting. So another approach is to take a walk outside to find, quote, what I call pre-existing color palettes in nature. So I have a bunch of photographs. I used to do an Instagram account. So I was always finding lots and lots of things to take pictures of. So I'm just going to go through a series of finding things in nature and then what's happening. We can go to the next one. This is an example of a showroom in Copenhagen. So that last picture was like, oh, I love those colors. I want to incorporate those in my life. This is probably not what you're going to do. It's a showroom. It's meant to be sort of exotic or different or strange, but it's very eye-catching. The entire room is pink. That's a lot of pink. I don't even know. If you love pink, that's still a lot of pink. So then there's the next one. So some people might go for this. You know, you've got neutrals, but you still have that bright orange, bright pink. And I would say for most people that from what I know in this area, this is not where we would go. It's just still too bright for a lot of people in Southern California. We can go to the next one. Now, this is very different. So this sort of picks up on the orange and pink, that original flower that you love and you want to incorporate, but then has the green background, the colors are more muted. And I would say even for a lot of people in Southern California, that's still too much color. But it's just to give an example of, it doesn't have to be the bright brights. You can find something you love that speaks to you and find a way to interpret that for your interior or even exterior. So another example of something from nature. And then interpreting that for an interior. That butterscotchy leather couch, it's beautiful Italian leather couch, but that brilliant blue wall. Now that would be too much for some people, but you can see how you can turn something you see in nature and turn it into something you can have indoors. Beautiful evening sky. Actually, Pantone in 2016 had to pick two colors. They couldn't pick one for their color of the year. So that was their, it's like they just saw it in an evening sky, right? They're like, let's do that. I'm sure that's not how they did it, but that's my interpretation. So how could you turn that into your home? So pinks and blues, very soft palette. Go ahead. Seascape, how do you turn that into a room? Beautiful bathroom, but you have all those exact same colors, that teal blue, the whites, the wood tones. It's very calming, and it's sort of like ripped from nature. It's like it was all right there, and then you turn it into an interior space with color. Beautiful. Now, so this is one picture I love because you're like, oh, it's a succulent. Those are sort of like a dusty green. But if you look really closely, you have the highlights on the edges of they're not petals, but the pads. And then you have in the shadows those purpley blue colors. So there's actually tons of color there. And if you look, those are almost the exact same colors that are on this exterior of this house. And this is not one of mine. It's a house up in San Juan Capistrano. I found this on Howe's website, but I loved it because it had that blue purpley trim color, that very light green color. So it's a way of just imagining you can take something from nature and put it on a structure and it feels natural. So these are all kinds of lichen. If you look really closely, there's gray, white, green, orange, yellow, but predominantly sort of orange and yellow and gray. And this is from a rug company in South Africa. And you see all those shades of gray and you just have that pop of color. So it's not too much, just a little bit, but it makes that whole space seem much more human and comfortable and cozy. And so a lot of folks would look at this and go, oh, there's not really any color there. But really, there's lots of color in there. And then if you interpret that for an interior, I love this interior. Again, not mine, I can't take credit for that. Some Architectural Digest apartment. I want to say Paris, but I'm not sure. But you see all these neutrals, but then you have these little pops. They even have they have a green plant here. They've got that wood tone. So you can do a lot just by finding something that you love in nature, find a way to interpret that. And if you're having trouble, I can help. So what do I do? So the simplest answer is to listen to what my clients want and need and to apply my expertise and help them find the perfect paint colors for their home or business, interior or exterior. And it's all not about what I want. It's about listening to what my clients want and making sure that I'm applying what I know about three-dimensional space and combine that with the needs of the client to create a completely unique color palette within the space of, I'm not mixing my own paints, I'm specifying Benjamin Moore most of the time, but still it's unique to them and for what they need to enhance the property. So my basic goals are creating balance, harmony, and flow. Improper use of color can make flow feel interrupted or jarring. You've probably all been to a space where you're like, oh, what's happening here? It's some weird color combination or just the way they've done color. So, but with proper placement for the architecture, the use of the room, line of sight, that's like where you can see from one room to another, and lighting, the new unified space can be harmonious and welcoming. And most important, I have a lot of clients that are like, oh, the kids finally left. Now I can really do what I want because they can't destroy it anymore. I hear a lot about teenage boys. I don't know. But just saying, it's what I hear. Word on the street. So I have a lot of clients that are taking step where it's like they don't want to redo the whole house, but they want to like maybe change what used to be one of the kids' room. I kind of want to turn it into her kitchen library. So she had all these books and all this stuff all over, stashed all over the house. So now she can have it all in one place. It's where she goes to like think about what she's going to cook or bake. And so that's the kind of personalization that you can get. I've also got clients where they buy a house, they love the house, but they hate the kitchen cabinets. But they've also got 3 kids. They got to think about college. So it's like paint, perfect answer. You don't have the yellowy, orangey oak from the 80s anymore, but you can paint it whatever color and not have to dip into the kids' college funds. So breathing new life into a tired space is sort of, turns out, my specialty. But updating paint colors can completely restore and revive any area, even minimizing the look of old elements, even countertops. I've done a lot of bathrooms that have weird colored tile in a bathroom that they don't use that much. They're not going to pay to replace the tile. They just don't want it to look weird. And they don't like the color of the tile, but with the right paint color, you can sort of minimize and make it look organic. Like, yeah, that weird yellow tile can look good. It just depends on what's on the walls around it. Or maybe even painting out vanity. So updating with paint colors can completely restore and revive any area, even minimizing the look of older elements like countertops and transforming space in a way that makes it feel fresh and new. So this is just values. You guys are all sort of in businesses of some sort or another. So it's quick, it's cost effective, and it can be very dramatic. Updating paint color is one of the most powerful, least expensive improvements that you can make in a property. Even changing the front door color can improve your curb appeal. This is a photo before and after of a house I did. It's actually in Pasadena. It's one of those really huge 1900 craftsmen. It was all white and kind of falling apart, and they fixed it up beautifully and even added an addition, and now it looks amazing. It looks like it could be in, one of those books about craftsman houses. So taking the guesswork out. So that's part of the problem. Folks look at all the colors and they're just frozen with indecision. But with me coming in, I can help. I've got years of experience getting to the right palette quickly. I can tell you for a lot of my clients, eliminates the anxiety. That's the hugest part of what I do, which is kind of why I like doing it. I'm helping people. And so then I can help them avoid a costly color mistake. That's it. I'm open for any questions if anyone has any questions.
Question is that what was wonderful. I think color is wonderful. When you say you can do this, I'm like, no, I can't. My husband and I paint the same wall like 5 times to find the right color. But at any rate, what is the trend in car colors that we have black colored cars, white colored cars, and various shades of gray colored cars, maybe a red, maybe a blue occasionally. What is the trend in the industry that we don't have more color?
Yeah, so this goes back, you can follow this sort of trend in color cycle after cycle, but especially when there's any kind of economic downturn, everybody, not just car companies, get very, very conservative. I'm not going to have a lot of colors. I don't want to be stuck with one color. It turns out nobody likes. I haven't got that kind of money. And in fashion, it turns out it's the same thing. So it can be everything from carpets and drapes and rugs. Everything starts to get sort of narrowed down to a narrow focus of let's just do something we think can sell. Because every manufacturer is in a state of mind right now with COVID and everything else. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Car companies are just one of those where it's like, let's just make, they know what colors sell because they've got years and years of data. So they're going to make the cars that sell the most. And that's where we are. It is funny, there are certain cars that they're sort of like, I'm just going to do, Prius is one, I'm going to do toothpaste mint green. Have you ever seen those cars? You're like, wow, that's a bold choice. But you still see them around. I think they made them for a few years back in the early aughts. But it's just funny. But yeah, a lot of car companies want to be very, very safe because, of course, people buy cars for a while. It's not like the sweater. That's the main reason. You were saying.
You were talking early on in your presentation about selecting color palette for certain areas and stuff. How much of the human response is innate versus trained through society? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, so when a person says, oh, I really like blue, or I really don't like blue, tell me if I have this right. Is that just innate, like they don't even think about it, or it's
respond to it? Yeah,
It's a condition.
so we all respond to color, but how you respond is completely personal. No one in this room does it exactly the same way, but it's innate that humans respond to color. It's our, like I was saying, it's our shortcut. Even on your phone, it's like, do you look for something that says a word, or do you just look for a little color? Like, oh, green is Starbucks and baby blue is Waze, so it's our shortcut for shorthand for finding things. So we're wired that way, but then every person has a different childhood. Your ex-husband had everything blue. You don't care if you ever see blue again. So everybody's different. And how you use, it's like one of the questions I come in with is like, okay, we want to redo the kitchen. Well, how do you use the kitchen? People look at you like cockeyed. You're like, oh, it's a kitchen. It's like, yeah, but how do you want to feel in the kitchen? Could be completely different. I'm a mom with 3 kids. I work. I get home 5 o'clock. All kids, bing, 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 at the island doing your homework. I'm making dinner. I don't know what Dad's doing, but it's like, I'm sure he's valuable. But that's really different. It's like they want a calm environment. They're there. It's almost like an office thing. They're there to get stuff done. But it's like a trader who trades on the East Coast who has to get up at like 3 a.m. or something. I had guys like, I just want it to be as bright and as energetic as possible. And for most people, like the amount of color he wanted in his kitchen is not what most people want. But it's like that and, his espresso machine. Those are the cheap things that get him up in the morning. And so he's got like bright lights, lots of like oranges and reds and yellow. Some of that's in the self-ranging, so it wasn't the paint, but it was like all planned with that in mind because that's going to be the thing that he's going to turn on the light in the morning. Okay, here we go, because it's dark outside. So everybody uses things similarly. Kitchens are kitchens. Bedrooms are bedrooms, but how you want to feel in it could be completely different. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, go ahead.
Are you willing to stay a little bit after the answer?
Oh, sure. I can talk about this all day.
Well, thanks so much, Christina, for chatting, and she will stay around. I know there was still some additional questions over here, so feel free to ask her after. And in your honor for speaking with us today, your name will be in 30 dictionaries that are given to 3rd graders. And also the collection, $329. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll probably do it next week as well, but thanks for that generosity. So with that, we'll adjourn.